Hello and welcome back, everyone, as we're preparing for the second series of the day and another team we will be bidding farewell to, as this is lower bracket. Elimination is on the line between AOE and Evil Geniuses Challengers. I know EGC is still a name that's a little bit of a shock to see down here based on expectations for them going into the tournament, even as 7th seed. Mazel, have we officially buried that narrative yet, or is that still going?
Well, I mean, you just said it, so it might still be going, but I feel like we might need to bury it at this point.
Well, we might say it a few more times throughout the broadcast today, but let's take a look at their opposition first off, because AOE is going to hit the Rift against them, and we got player photos, baby. I love to see it. Beatdown, talk to me about the AOE roster and maybe some of the expectations. I know we had kind of highlighted them at the beginning of the day as well.
Yeah, and my concerns were that, this might be a tough matchup for them. We might be saying goodbye to AOE Gold, and it would be sad, especially considering the great turnaround they had during that second round robin. During a show in week 5 or 6, we even talked about what the standings would look like if we saw just second round robin wins and losses, and AOE were on the upper ends of the charts. And now, even though they've stumbled a little bit in playoffs, the hope is that with the identity we know they like to play for, that they are able to actually get some wins.
And I like that you highlighted that, because that was a bigger conversation that I was very interested in, because you could do that with both of these teams, AOE and Evil Geniuses. They would look very different in seeding going in, could have big implications on how the bracket played out, but this is how the bracket played out. You know, maybe a little unlucky for AOE, but still we do have some expectations for them. So let's talk about how they look on the Rift and what they could bring to this match in particular. Beat, I know that you also had highlighted a couple of these plays that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and the thing is, that I really like about AOE is Will and Breezy. I mean, we've talked about the return of Will, Summer Child, all of that, and how good Breezy has been, especially when these two players are able to link up at every stage of the game. These are really the two drivers of this team. We talk about Engine. This is one of those where it's really hard to know who both of them, that both of them kind of fit that role. They're both really important to how their team operates in team fights. And every team fight win you'll see, it's when they are working together to actually set up these plays. And even though their last series against DSG was pretty difficult, we still saw some good looks. I'm not too concerned yet. I think this matchup could still be competitive, but they really need to show us what we saw in week 5 and 6.
Will and Breezy
and they have to show it against a tough opponent, Mazel, because Evil Geniuses Challengers, one of the 3 remaining LCS-affiliated semi-pro teams. They're coming in hot. I know Armeo is joining in, kind of a last-minute change. The Shading got called up to the LCS team, but still, we have pretty high expectations for them.
We do. I think Armeo showed why he has been the general, is the general for a lot of teams, and especially Team Liquid. But now here, needing to find some cohesion with the team. I think Surdy has been a such welcome addition. King has had an incredible split. Some drop-offs, but Evil Geniuses Challengers as a whole, right? They have been a resurging team in the second half. In the second round robin, when Surdy was coming into the roster, but also you got to think a little bit of the history between these two teams. AOE were the team that knocked out EG in spring. It was a different roster,
so crazy,
but it's so funny to me, and I think that when we get those kind of wraparounds and everything coming together, EGC is a team that should be feared. It just depends on how fearful you should be.
They're not even playing against Fear. They're playing against AOE. Yeah, that's the crazy thing. They're in the upper bracket still. So, Evil Geniuses Challengers expectations is kind of how we keep framing them, because it's always the question, when are they going to come online? When are they finally going to click? When are they going to get it? Okay, they're getting it. Surdy's in. They're feeling like they're driving. They're feeling like they're doing well. Okay, now they're in the first round, lower seed than we expected. How are they going to look in that first round? Okay, they lost the first round. How are they going to look at the... It's always this question. We never get it fully answered. So I'm hoping for a more definitive showing from them, because as you had hinted at, Mazel, they don't have the best track record necessarily of, showing up in the lower brackets or in these brackets in general. I know rosters always change, but it's just kind of funny. Keeps happening. Evil Geniuses Challengers, what was Academy. But like we did with AOE, let's take a look at the tape and actually highlight some of the players that we also want to talk about, because this could be the last time we see them. One of these teams will be going home.
Surdy, for me, has been the biggest mainstay focus for Evil Geniuses. I think since he came in, you got to see a very differing play style through Evil Geniuses, where, for a lot of the season, Shaden was combining with him so strongly. But this was a look in their last series. And yes, it didn't go their way, but there were still some of those connection points. You're like, okay, this is how you get off the ground running for Evil Geniuses.
And one thing I will add really quickly, too, they had an incredible early mid game as well, and it was kind of tragic how they ended up losing this one. And I mean, these are kind of the drop-offs for King that you mentioned there, but I also want to highlight people like Yuji and Spyrox who were able to take advantage of King's positioning, get on top of him, and get him out of the picture. Something for AOE to look to abuse in this series today, and something EG hopefully clean up, because, you know, we talk about that narrative where are they the 7th seed team? Their second round robin was so strong. Can we actually consider it? Today's going to be the decider.
Yeah, and I think it's cool when you look at the narratives of the players on either side. There's a lot to prove, as this is Tier 2. These players are trying to make it to that LCS stage. Particularly, Will has talked about it a lot. I think if he's able to show up big here against a veteran jungler like Armeo, could be big news for AOE and their prospects as players going forward. But, you know, we highlighted it before, so let's just get right into it. We're going to do another little breakdown here, because it's worth it to go over the curse of evil geniuses. I want to demonstrate to everybody exactly what I mean by that by going through a little bit of a history tour. So, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Remember all the way back when it was called Proving Grounds? Back the summer of 2021? Came in high seed, ended 9th, 12th out of 16 teams, and then did it get better for them in the next spring? Got worse. They bombed out right away. First round loss in the lower bracket. Brought it back to 9th, 12th for summer 2022. Not too bad.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps going. Oh no. And
pattern.
Mazel, you said it. It was AOE that did it to them this last spring. What does it mean for the future? Are they cursed, Beatdown? Is this confirmed?
I mean, it's all looking pretty definitive. I gotta be honest, Kangas. It might be looking cursed, especially with the tough loss EG took going into today. Maybe. But I mean, AOE also had a tough loss.
I was gonna say.
You know what I mean? Like, and if I say EG aren't favored, I feel like Cubby's gonna like knock down my door or something.
Oh no, not the Cubby threat. Of course, this is all just to say that when expectations are high for the org, somehow they just keep, you know, underperforming. And I want to be honest about that, because they are better than that. We've seen consistently the rosters have been better than that. That first summer roster, they had JoJo still on the roster when they bombed out first round. So it's like, it's not as a way to say, oh, they are not favored coming into this match. It's to say something keeps happening, whether it's pressure, whether it's outside, you know, external expectations, whatever you want to call it, where they aren't able to perform in these high-pressure moments. We are hoping that they can turn it around. So I want to talk about win conditions, brass tacks here. Beatdown, I'm going to give it to you first. If Evil Geniuses had 4 people predict them to be the dark horses for this lower bracket, how are they going to win this game right here today?
For AOE, it's gonna be pretty tough. I mean, you have Concept. These teams kind of play in opposite ways, where we see EG, one of the few teams who play really hard for top lane. We saw it in the clips that Lennon showed us today, that Surdy is the big focus. It's worked out for them really well. And Concept, we know him to be that tank player. The big question is going to be, can he absorb a lot of that pressure and not give away too much while AOE try to make plays elsewhere? And should that work out, I mean, that's AOE's best chance.
I am looking back. My memory serves a Mundo game where he dies 5 times in lane to a Darius.
Okay, to be fair, that was against Supernova. That was against Supernova.
That was against Supernova. True. Very different opponent, but still, the fact that Concept can still hold on and be that weak side rock in the top lane. Mazel, I'm going to give you the maybe harder one. Let's go to AOE side before we get into pick and ban. What are the win conditions and how do you see them taking us?
What's going on?
Huh?
I talked about AOE's win cons.
Well, yeah, but I want to get both of your opinions.
Okay. I understand. I will never question you again.
No, I think the biggest thing we've highlighted so often for this team has been the mid support, not mid jungle duo, but the support jungle duo. And the way that Will and Breezy come together early on, if you get those big engage heavy supports, that is how they find their bread and butter, and it's how they find wins.
I'm also looking at mid lane. I got hopes that Darkwing's able to step it up this time around, but we'll see if they have it, because pick and ban is now ready. So, Mazel, Beatdown, I'm going to pass it back over to you to get us into game
I'm
number
open!
1.
I got it! He passed it!
Dude, how do you always catch that, Lennon?
Dude, the hand-eye coordination
just like
is crazy.
that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're getting our hands onto this second series of the day. Again, one of these teams we will have to bid adieu to at the end of the day, and it will be a best of 3 that decides that one. We got AOE on the blue side for this first game, and EGC on the red side. We'll see what that counter pick does belie for Surdy if they want to go that route. But right now it's the Maokai and the Kindred banned away by both sides.
I expect we're going to see a lot of the usual suspects, even though we've only been on 13-4 for this is our 4th day, because we're just finishing up week 1 of our playoffs here. We're seeing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, the Maokai Kindred, usually things that they want to go away from. The Ziggs is, the Link span. I mean, that's a good one. It's been routinely spoken of how good he is at the champion, and it's something, you know what, you don't give it to him. Don't give him any chances.
Just don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Got the Sejuani band away against Armeo, something he loves to pick up because, again, it does provide a lot of that engage potential, but the decision-making power that Armeo is always looking for. We do get that Tristana band, though, at the final part here for EGC, so they want to try to take away some more of that flexibility, but also that strength out of the mid lane, and it's that first pick Rel, baby, for AOE.
I mean, that's what we want to see. We talk about how good Breezy has been on the engaged champions and how him and Will kind of lead the team fights for the team. I mean, there's no one better than Rel, the best engaged champion in the game right now.
And also just something that Breezy has been so darn good on. I think that, him and NXI, you can't give this champion over to them. They're really dirty. We do get some stability, at least, for King in the Xayah. I think we didn't see it exactly pulled out the way we wanted to in our first series of the day. I'm excited to see King on this one, though, because I think it's something he can really tear them apart with, but also really lean on the strengths of the top side of the map because you can play with that safety. And we get the LeBlanc locked in for Ryoma.
Wow, and that one's blind, which I kind of respect. Ryoma just wants the power pick for himself. He's kind of throwing down the gloves in front of Darkwing's there. And I mean, we've seen it be really strong at the moment, even with Static Shiv being out of the picture. Her going back to that normal build. And Ryoma, he wants that power for himself.
Okay, so we get the Kai'Sa, the flexibility, but we get the Rumble back in it. And this time, for concept, maybe a little bit of flexibility for Darkwings as well.
Yeah, and it's not a bad matchup into the LeBlanc. And on top of it all, like, you just got yourself 2 really strong power picks. Something I like about dealing with a champion like Xayah is poke. And Kai'Sa with the AP build, I mean, you kind of outrange her. I don't know if you guys have seen AP Kai'Sa. And of course, as Rumble, as we saw in the last game, you got a lot of range with that equalizer as well.
Yep, I do like the Lovers duo lock-in, though. The Rakan being put in for Smoothie, again, just gives that duo a lot of pressure in the bot lane, a lot of safety, but also gives Smoothie the roaming potential to kind of match Breezy, which I feel like could be very important in this one.
Yeah, it will be. And to be fair, not 100% that Breezy will be locking in the route. We could very well see it go into the jungle, especially with EGC, knocking away some potential team fighting picks like the Wukong. Will's actually taking the Viego away from Armea as well. So some respect to both junglers going back and forth.
I do like that focus from the very skirmish-heavy junglers that I think can take presence here. I think Will, throughout his entire split, has been incredible at picking up kills. This man finds kills out of seemingly nowhere, even when AOE were not doing great. So giving Will power is also important for AOE. And I think banning some of these things away for EGC could be really important. We saw that Wukong you had mentioned earlier. It is actually the Jace that becomes that final ban for EGC, trying to take away some of that flexibility potentially that AOE were working with.
And something I'm interested in for EGC's comp in particular. So now you realize that you're essentially outranged here. Okay, banning the Kennen is a good example of what I'm about to talk about. They need champions for either Surdy or Armeo that are kind of go buttons. You need CC. Rakan doesn't want to be the first one to go in. He wants to get on someone's back and say, hey, buddy, come on, let's go on a trip to CC
all those
land.
Clips.
Exactly. So what is EGC going to pick to kind of round out this composition? They need something to close the gap a little bit. Jax doesn't really fit that mold for me here, Lennon, and it's going to come down to that R5 saving the pick for Armeo.
I love that, and I want to talk about that a little bit more here because you don't know what AOE are doing with this draft. There's a lot of flexibility, so saving that pick for a guy who needs some stability, but also has been such a strong part to the teams he's been a part of. I actually really like that opt-in. We do get Lynx's Jinx locked in to combo here, and I think you do have a lot of that momentum-based combat coming through for AOE.
100%. I mean, you already have so much damage, so much all-in coming through here. Where is this Rel going is that next question. Is it going into Breezy's pocket? Are we actually going to see the Lee Sin lock in? So that is First of all, that's fun because I remember first watching Will play in 2021. He was a big Lee Sin player, and it's cool to see that champ come out here in game 1 of a do or die series because one, he's gonna have that early skirmishing potential. You deny a good combo from the LeBlanc, and you have so much playmaking with that Dragon's Rage.
I'll just say one thing that I've learned from talking with Will. That is, this man is very confident in his own abilities. He is very confident that he can be the difference maker. And the fact in game number 1, you're going straight to one of his comforts, straight to a mechanically executable jungler, and they're putting all the eggs in the Will basket. AOE are steaming right along. We got Evil Genius's response, though, and it's a really good one. The Nocturne locked in a lot of denial available for Armeo.
Right, and this is how EGC generally tends to play. They want to snowball early, and I'm imagining we're going to see a lot of topside attention again for the side of Evil Geniuses. So it's going to be up to Concept to absorb that pressure like we talked about if they want to get to that late game, because AOE, I don't know if you know this, Leonard, but they're super favored in that late game. EGC want to get the ball rolling right from the jump.
And one reset, one difference, in the team fight can lead AOE to just absolutely trouncing Evil Geniuses. But you got to look at the combinations of Armeo, Ryoma, and Surdy for Evil Geniuses to find any advantages early on. We're getting into this best of 3, our second one of the day. It's AOE versus Evil Geniuses Challengers and their playoff dreams on the line.
So right off the bat, something that stands out to me is Ryoma is actually going for the static shiv. We've seen a couple mid laners who play the LeBlanc on this patch go back to her AP roots, the rush of the Ludens. And I actually would have liked that a little better for this lane because that Ludens means you have a lot of kill threat early, but instead, Ryoma is playing for push. So he is playing for that ability to
they know each other well.
Get lane pressure. They do.
Yeah, the lane pressure I think is also so important in this first game, just for setting momentum on your own side, but building some of that confidence too. I see, speaking of building confidence, there's a lot of spams in the chat for AOE there. Finally, we get some EGC in there. Make sure you're spamming in chat who you think is going to take the win. But AOE looking for that level 1 warding over onto Armeo's red side jungle.
It's going to be really important. I mean, that early jungle tracking, we've seen EGC do the same on the bottom side. Right there, getting the eyes on the Raptors, a great way to have info on where enemy jungler is going to be. And again, this early game, so crucial for the side of Evil Genius Challengers. We're seeing Armeo go for the top to bottom clear instead of the other way around. So we're not going to see an early gank for Surdy on the Jax. But you still got to imagine Armeo playing for that level 6 has his sight set on top.
Speaking of top lane, I was mentioning it earlier, but Surdy and Concept, two very close friends, know each other very well. Ended up actually talking a decent amount. And I think Surdy, the last time I talked to him about Concept, it was really interesting because, he values a lot of the practice and stuff that he gets against Concept, the conversations he has against them, but he still feels like he is absolutely the better laner, and he wants to take advantage of that. So to see Concept figuring out the Rumble here, have a little bit of that fight back towards the Jax, that'll be something I keep my side eye on here.
For sure. I mean, this champ, still quite disgusting. The Concept definitely has a lot of value that he's going to be able to bring to the team in terms of damage, team fighting, and things like that. And again, it's just about whether or not he doesn't fall too far behind versus Surdy, especially if the junglers get involved here. But what we're looking at now, Will taking the opportunity for an invade.
You have to.
Yeah, you have the pushing bottom lane.
And you also just upend the early clearing of a Nocturne. You want to try to get as much advantage as you can before he gets level 6, because that's literally when he becomes a champion. So Will able to use that pressure from the bot lane as well as mid lane to get this blue buff away. And Armeo's still having some trouble with the Gromp. Just going to be pushed out of his entire blue side jungle.
Armeo does have Smite. It's going to be hard for this Gromp to actually get secured. But I like that they're delaying it. Oh, wait a minute.
Go right in, though. Armeo, he has no exit. He can't even get the flash. Will with first blood.
Really nice coming through from AOE. I mean, I love that Will held the Q until the very last possible moment. So even if Armeo flashed, he was still sure to die. And what a great way to get this game rolling for AOE, who are the ones who, I mean, you have a lot of scaling advantage with the Jinx, Kai'Sa, and the Rumble. But Lee Sin being that bridging champion, so strong in the early game, able to make plays, is a great start.
The fact that Armeo sticks around, I just have to call that out here, because AOE were absolutely on vision.
Yeah.
They had a Breezy around the corner, but it's just that skirmishing wanting to come through. Will being able to connect Sonic on the other side. It just means Armeo doesn't have an exit.
Yeah, and I think the idea there for Armeo is that Will smited the blue. So he's thinking, okay, I can smite this Gromp, and I will get this camp, and I will leave, not expecting Will and Breezy to jump over the wall and take him out of the picture. So now Surdy going to use that top priority to get Armeo something back in the blue buff. The problem is we may have a skirmish on the top side, especially because the blue wasn't actually taken, nothing really gained.
I do look for Will to continue skirmishing, though. As much advantage as I was saying into Armeo is going to be important. Darkwings having some trouble in the mid lane against Ryoma's LeBlanc. That'll lead to some pressure available for Armeo to play around. But we do have Dragon coming up on the other side. Both junglers nowhere near that pathing, but you do have pressure from King and Smoothie.
Yeah, and at this point, AOE, you're okay with letting that one go. You have both bot laners who haven't actually gone for a reset yet. So you see King and Smoothie trying to shove this wave in. That could be that opportunity for AOE as Will comes downwards. If they get that wave in, if King and Smoothie reset, that is a way AOE could secure that early neutral objective.
Ooh, that top side going the other way this time around. It was Surdy that had a big push for a while, but now pretty heavy wave going into the turret of Surdy there now. We do want to see, though, Will continuing to be proactive, because what we talked so heavily about before this game even started was how quickly him and Breezy can get on the map together.
Yeah, that's right. And we already saw an example of it with that first blood coming through. And you got to imagine with this Lee Sin Rel combo, someone's getting jumped on very, very quickly in these team fights as soon as they get those opportunities. So we're going to see how EGC are going to be able to get the answers in. They have the bottom push. They're going to be the ones potentially taking advantage. Oh, hold on.
Breezy just really wanted to stop that back.
Wow.
He's just like, you know, I don't want you to back at this moment. You can back now.
Well, you do waste a little time there from King.
You had the push in more so.
Yeah,
That's the biggest thing. Now Link's made it to wave, so you can get that crash in hopefully in time. But you do have Armeo resetting back onto the map, so is Will. And right now EG have a lot of priority through at least mid lane to play through, but it looks like Ryoma will just take that back.
Yeah, spend the gold. You want to get that Shiv as quickly as possible so that you can get the lane push. So Will taking advantage of Lee Sin's level 5. I mean, one of the few junglers who can just 1v1 the dragon early on, no matter which one it is. He's doing it on vision, though. So there is that opportunity for the catch out. He will know a ward is placed down. And with Ryoma still walking from his base, should allow Will to finish it. It's really hard to steal from a Lee Sin with the execution damage on his Q.
I love that we're getting a little bit of skirmish. EG not really wanting to fully commit to that one. Dragon does go over to AOE. Scuttle Crab should be following here as well. Breezy going a little ham again. Just getting knocked up by the grand entrance as Ryoma joins the fray. Nothing else going to come of it. Dragon for AOE gold.
Hey, look at Breezy playing goalie with this Rel. That's what is so strong about this champion. And AOE, they're getting everything in this early game. First blood, first Drake, and you can see they've got some leads growing here. Concept has that natural lead top side. He's up in farm just a little bit. Lynx is the same, being able to get himself about a wave ahead of King. And again, Jinx, Kaisa, you're so dangerous in that late game, the 2 to 3 item mark. So getting these early leads, having AoE be up a K is great.
Concept. Oh, Concept. Sir, 35. We went away from the solo. Oh, no. King just gets caught in the bottom lane, too, and Lynx gets the kill. It's going all AoE. Even though you had the solo and topside, it was traded back. And my goodness, all of a sudden, 8 minutes in, it's 3-1 with 1,000 gold lead for AoE.
So many kills just popped up there, Lennon. And honestly, Concept, the wave didn't even fully go in. So he's actually pretty happy with going 1-for-1 in that scenario and getting a kill onto your Jinx. Lennon, that is probably one of the best things you can do as a jungler. It's got to feel so good for AoE to get these early game leads, and this is what we wanted to see from Will and Breezy. I mean, the fact is, these two have been so big for the early game of AoE Gold, and because of that, not only have they earned themselves those first 3 kills, now Will is going to go ahead and start this Rift Herald. Remember, no kick. Armeo is is level 6, has access to the ultimate.
Paranoia would be big, but Breezy is up here, and that's that crucial connection that we had highlighted so much for AOE. Smoothie is here too. They are the big engagers for their
Level
team,
6,
and we see
though.
Breezy going for that engage. He doesn't have the quickness, and Armeo just gets dragged out and beaten to death. AOE take the Rift Herald, and that is complete momentum in their favor.
And what a great early game coming through from AOE Gold. They're getting everything they could possibly want. They're 2 for 2 neutral objectives. They're up 3 kills. And everyone except Breezy has got one in their back pocket. And now Will, with that Dragon's Rage coming off cooldown, has a Rift Herald to play with. You got to imagine Lynx is where he is setting his sights. So we're going to get a replay of this bot lane fight.
Take a look at the kick in.
Very nice.
The King, bringing him straight to Lynx's doorstep there.
Right, and you see as on the screen
He tried.
Yeah, he did try. Respect to Sturdy for that. We
All right,
wanted
how
to
did
talk.
Surdy die here?
He flashes under the turret. That's literally the reason. Look at that.
Oh, and Leap Strike. I added actually an extra caveat there.
Yeah, all his movement abilities to ensure that he secures the kill, which again didn't fully get the wave in, so you're not really denying anything from Concept, who goes 1 for 1. We wanted Concept to absorb that pressure topside. Armeo hasn't made any trips top lane, and Concept's doing just fine in the 1v1. This is everything we wanted for AOE if they wanted to win this game 1.
The biggest lifeline you always have to check on if there is a Nocturne in the game is how active they are with the ulti once we hit level 6. We have not been able to see a big Paranoia just yet, but it is something that Armeo will have a difference maker button ready to go. Just about how to make that to where you're not just the light switcher at the end of the day. We got the static shift completed for Dark Wings on the other side. Surdy's looking for another solo here, but there's a big old minion wave. Paranoia, and that's a little bit of a bait. Armeo in some trouble. It's a backing away as soon as he sees Will.
Wow, so that gives Concept, I mean, that's the perfect opportunity. Will was in the vicinity. Now his top laner gets the wave in and gets to recall. Now the question is Will is sticking around? Is he looking for the Herald play topside? And the answer is no. Yeah, and I'm still expecting a play towards bottom. I mean, the fact is, if you can get a nice Dragon's Rage onto King, Smoothie, set up a situation for Lynx to pick up plates, get that gold lead even further ahead, that's wonderful.
Biggest thing here is Realma needs to be careful because you need his presence if you're going to try to contest any objectives like this. And with the item spikes coming across, you do have to expect that fight to be there. I will just say the biggest difference maker right now, Armeo just reset, did not complete his item. Gore Drinker is there for Will. And you see AOE putting all their presence in the bottom side.
Yeah, real big spike. Will's feeling very strong on the map at the moment here and wants to use that power. You can see they're trying to clear vision. He's been linking up with Breezy all through this early game, and it's been working out so well. AOE have a 2,500 gold lead. They're perfectly set up for this next Drake, and it's going to be hard. We want to talk about the difference between these carries at the moment. Lynx and King both have the Kraken Slayer, but Lynx has that tier 2 boost, that extra movement and attack speed, and that's enough for EGC to just back right off.
Also just love the double stopwatches in Dark Wings and Lynx.
Yeah.
Double marksmans need to stay in sync. That dragon will go over, and that'll be a second dragon. So all the 2s are there.
Oh my god, look what's
for AOE.
happening.
Yeah, Surdy is not having a good time up here. He's also down about 40 CS now because of those early shenanigans.
Yep. And it's been a tough one. I mean, it's been a great game from Concept so far in the 1v1. Will Breezy doing everything that we needed them to do for that AOE win. And you can see what it's earned them in this early game. Lennon, the gold is all on the carries of AOE. And with this Herald coming through, Dark Wings very likely to move up a tier or 2 on these gold standings.
And you could always talk about Jack's to the side lane, Jack's this, Jack's that, but you aren't going to be Jack if you can't get a gold. And I think that, especially with the way the Concept has been approaching it, he knows all too well he's got the momentum in this one. Speaking of momentum, though, Breezy tries to find the engage. King has to burn the cleanse on the trap shawls, as now Will looking for the Dragon Rage. Can't necessarily find it. Mega Death Rocket goes out, the Feather Storm in return.
King has to use that ult to save his life, but my goodness, what an early game from AOE Gold. Not at all what we were expecting from them. And not to say they were going to get mollywopped, but the fact that they're the ones dominating this early game, especially given how many tools EGC have to play out these first 15 minutes is definitely something to praise.
Here we go again. This time,
Surdy's dead.
I think it worked. Oh my God! You're such a Chad concept! Doesn't even matter that you go down. He takes his old frenemy. It's Surdy.
You trade summoner spells, you trade kills. What more could you hope for in these situations? Armeo not finding as much value as EGC need him to, especially towards the top side. It just hasn't been working out in game one of this series. But I'll tell you what has been working out. Lynx and Darkwings, they got all the gold they could possibly hope for into their pockets. And I gotta say, Breezy, he has been out roaming Smoothie pretty much this entire game. Such a big part of everything AOE's done.
Breezy's in trouble now, though. He got the extra blast cone distance, and Ryoma takes him out. You cast the curse the ever-living hell out of him.
That does not take away the great early game he has had. I will stand by that. That was just, you know, you got a little too excited there.
To check him real quick. You know?
Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, are they inting? No, they're not inting? All right, guys, don't worry. Now we know.
The funniest thing in all of this, though, to me, is that AOE are coming out so triumphantly in game number one. They were also the team that knocked out EG. We talked about that so much before, and it's happening again. No, it's not really happening again. It's just a big advantage for AOE, but it's trending in that direction, and AOE have come out with a composition that feels like it's leaning into their strength so well.
Yeah, that's right, and wow, jeez. And Lynx, you're ahead. You're still an 80 carry. Be very, very careful. And now we're going to see AOE go 3 for 3 for objectives, Lennon. 4 for 4. 2 Drakes, 2 Heralds, and the Void Seeker is going to reveal Armeo trying to trade on the other side. This is going to be an objective, a boon for AOE, and nothing is traded for it. And I got to say, Lennon, EGC, they're on the clock. They are running out of time. This only gets harder for them when Lynx and Darkwings pick up more and more items. And the fact that they are down at this stage of the game does not bode well for them.
This was a team for EG as well that, you know, we had lauded them for their resurgence once Surdy joined the roster.
Yeah.
It felt like a new team, a strong team, and even had teams recognizing them throughout our NACL, right? One of the biggest things Spyrax said to me before we ended playoffs is they are scared because they have to go against Evil Geniuses in the first round. But it turns out that Evil Geniuses were not prepared for that one, but it is still about the strengths we've seen from them since the addition of Surdy to the roster.
Yeah, and you can see AOE, they do this with a solid game plan that they've been able to execute. I am perfectly fine throughout this entire early game. And now the only real downside for AOE is that they're playing for a Chemtech Soul, which is, you know, not that good. And actually a bit of an opening there, some breathing room from EGC, because that map, the Chem Rift, it makes it easier for you to keep vision clear on your side of the map because of those empowered cones.
I think a big kicker here in these next moments will be how Smoothie starts to interact with the team. I think it's been a very quiet game from Smoothie, and he is the glue that holds this team together. We've heard it from his mouth as well, right? And I think Breezy is just having that Rel moment we know him for, and that maybe not wanting to give that one away again for Evil Geniuses. But it's still Smoothie needing to find these grand entrances into the fight.
Now, Herald coming through in the mid lane. It's going to get the first brick, it looks like, over to the side of AOE. And all they're going to do now, escort the Herald to get a second charge. And then they're just going to go ahead and walk away, get set up for the Drake. Even though the trade is coming through, it still gives AOE that perfect opportunity to move in for this Drake. You're going to lose some farm on the bottom end there that Ryoma has forced out, but it doesn't matter. You're still happy.
This is the PowerPoint of Evil Geniuses, though, at least not right now, but the way they want to use their PowerPoints is the side lanes, right? Surdy will be a menace, Ryoma will be a menace, they will be hard to catch, and it could buy a lot of time. But AOE, if they can just continue gaining all these advantages, will force the hand of Evil Geniuses.
Wow, you can see it. Like, AOE very committed to this Soul Point. Teleporting Concept instead of letting him get that turret.
They're going on to Concept himself, though. He has Equalizer. He can't use it, though. He's fleeing.
He's overheated.
And he can't get it off. He goes down. He gets it off at the last second, but it didn't matter. King is picked off on the side here as EG. They have committed the bottom side of this one. Darkwing's getting low. Will go for the kill. He finds King in the end. Breezy goes right back in. Here comes Lynx. He wants to get that excited reset, but Armeo using that blast cone away. Really and now AOE are in a lot of trouble. Some good decision making from EG and a reset from Ryoma. Got the TP back, and this should just be Lynx and Will getting chased down. Smoothie with the Hex Flash goes for him. They know exactly where to go, and it's straight onto Lynx.
Wow, really nice comeback there from EGC, and it was off the back of jumping on top of Concept. That equalizer coming in so late was what really hurt them the most. And even though Will gets away, that's EGC putting a halt to everything AOE has done in this early game. And you can see it here. The fact is, Concept close to overheated, and he tried to use the shield, and it meant that he wasn't able to cast the ult until right before he died. And you can see it, AOE, they're trying to focus down the Drake, and this split call where Lynx isn't really able to get any damage down, and the rest of EG are able to move into the fight faster, means that EG, they had all the play in their favor.
I just love the heads-up play from Ryoma there. This man is turning it on for this series, and he even took so much of the ire of AOE in the beginning of that one. Immediately went for a back as soon as he got hit for that Mega Death Rocket and gets back into the fight. Now he is sitting at 3-0, a Night Harvester in tow, and a 2-item spike for both mid laners.
Yeah, and Ryoma really is the way that Evil Genius has come back into this one. Even though we're talking about a Rumble, a Jinx, a Kai'Sa, Ryoma is really that one saving grace for EGC. Not in the side lane, but in the team fights, Lennon. That ability to burst targets down, especially if we see that Lich Bane sort of build where you do a lot of auto attack damage on top of all your spells.
Oh, they're just going straight on the Lynx, though. They try to get the re-engage. The Grand Entrance gets stopped, but Lynx still going down here. Evil Geniuses, they keep pouncing.
And I love that. The instant decision to pull the trigger. Look at Armeo. He's at full health, basically. That red buff is doing wonders for him. And the ability to continuously pick off Lynx, whether it's Ryoma or Armeo, is EGC's way to win these team fights. They've been doing such a good job these last few minutes of isolating people and making full use of that paranoia.
The biggest thing with this Evil Geniuses roster is just the pure mechanical skill that we see on a lot of these guys, right? King has had some incredible moments this split, but I always look to the solo lanes. Ryoma and Surdy, they don't have Shaden anymore, that mechanically minded jungler. They have Armeo, who's more of that general, more of that facilitator. Here, he is facilitating those paranoias to get these solo laners ahead. And I think Surdy and Ryoma's decisiveness are what is bringing back Evil Geniuses in this one.
Yeah, and I will say AOE, they still have a lot of late game power, and you can see it. Lynx, I mean, bold choice. Did go for the Infinity Edge. It is buffed on this patch. You do more crit damage. So Lynx's auto attacks, when they crit, they are gonna hurt. And now AOE, after these last couple of fights, you gotta hope they learn their lesson. Make sure to protect this Jinx.
That's the thing, though. Look at that. Like, you have so much quick access from Ryoma to poke down Lynx and force him out of fights.
He lost almost half his health with an auto Q. That's it. And there's still so much damage where that came from. And you know Armeo is just sniffing around Lennon. As soon as Lynx is even the slightest bit on his own, more than 2 characters units worth from his teammates, he's going to jump in there with that ultimate.
Yeah,
Lynx
that's what I thought was so
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
That last one, like, literally has 2 people right
there.
on. He's like, no, I'm going straight for Lynx. I don't know what you guys thought I was doing. I'm not using it on you, point blank. Why would I ever do that? We have Evil Geniuses, though, with this vision around the Baron Pit, just trying to clear it out as much as they can. Utilize this kind of 1-3-1 composition between the downtimes that they have.
And right now, I mean, we want to talk about items. EGC, they're about 1.5k gold ahead. You can see the second item coming through for people like King and Ryoma. I mean, that Quick Blades for King means a lot of extra damage coming through on Evil Genius' side. So right now, they're feeling really good about their ability to team fight, especially with how they've caught up. It's AOE who find themselves on that back foot a little bit. Likely not even going to be able to contest this next dragon in a minute's time. And realistically, the soul is not that powerful. It's okay to let it go and try to pick up gold on the other side of the map. Just trade for it, because that 3-item mark for Dark Wings and Lynx, that's where you will surpass EGC.
Talking about gold a little bit, I wouldn't mind actually taking a look here, because we do have like a 60 CS lead for Concept on the top side, but a decent advantage for Ryoma, who's been scooping up those side lanes. I think you have to continue to watch that, because Surdy even though he's been this far behind, still has had such a big influence in a lot of these. It is a pressure that Lynx and Darkwings particularly always have to watch out for because they're just the little ADCs.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You got these 3 champions, the top side of EGC. They have that ability to give Lynx and Darkwings what I always like to call an AD carry moment. Like, oh yeah, you got 2-3 items, but if this champion on 1 to 2 items gets on top of you, I mean, just go next. Is jungle diff or whatever you AD carries say. I don't know.
It hurts too much, Beatdown. I can't.
Do you say jungle diff though? I need to know.
Yes, sure.
There it is.
We're gonna go for it. Speaking of though, jungle diff might come soon as Evil Geniuses with Armeo in tow, the general leading the charge.
Oh, they didn't get him.
Find him. That's a rampage for Ryoma. And Concept is locked out of the fight here. He will be burned alive, but he does get away, and that will end up being Concept. Out with a flash, at least surviving, but a dragon for Evil Geniuses.
And it's a really nice call from Evil Genius. They have the ability, again, to all in. They are really strong at the moment, especially with the gold lead that they have. So this dragon was never AoE's to begin with, and AoE get punished for even being in that vicinity. Really good all in from Evil Geniuses.
Love that 3-item Lich Bane for Ryoma, coming in clutch when it matters, but the amount of damage that man would do is just insane. You see even now, just this little poke on a Concept. Concept himself has that Shadow Flame available, does do a good amount back, but AoE reeling a bit as they come back onto the map after the reset.
Reeling is maybe a bit of an understatement because right now,
Oh, he stole it.
Did he? That looked...
I saw the gold on Ryoma's potty.
Oh, then yeah. Got it. That's got to feel bad as Will. And Ryoma is so strong on the map right now. 3 items deep, level 16, and just what a performance from a player who I think we had a lot of criticisms about during spring and most of summer. But in that back half, he was really able to turn it around. And look at him now, Lennon. 11k gold, most in the game, and he is the big pressure point for EG right now.
He's been a mainstay for Evil Geniuses for a long while. Wow, what a nice little combo there. He's been a mainstay for a long while, right? I think it took a while for him to get here. And
yeah.
This is the whole conversation we've had with Evil Geniuses for so long. They've had so many pieces like, oh, this is the Evil Geniuses that was promised. Oh, now this is the Evil Geniuses that was promised. Oh, wait, no, but this is the Evil Geniuses that was promised.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've had such trials and tribulations for this team to go through and to see them put the grit out on the table, fight back after a very early deficit to come now a 3K lead with that decisiveness just shows that EG, when they are running together, when they are deciding that they want to go for these plays, it looks so good, and now they're on the Baron.
I was going to say, speaking of decisiveness, King and Armeo going for the 2-man, but it's a bait.
This is rough.
This is so dangerous. They got the teleport out, even though EG have already backed away, which you got to be really happy about as Evil Genius Challengers, because now one pesky summoner spell out of the picture there for Darkwings. And EG, they're strong enough that they can just go ahead and do that again.
Look at AOE, though. They are just grouping as a team. They know their strength comes in the team fight. Will getting a big Dragon Rage kick onto a squishy member will be their saving grace. And that is a lot of pressure to put on Will, but it's something he takes on willingly.
Oh, there it is.
Speaking of pressure, though, he found him out with the vision, and Armeo's going ham to try to get Lynx.
Oh, nice
He
kick.
can't get him, though. He has to flash out, and immediately the Sharks swarm from AOE and take him out.
So that is one. Armeo, he goes a little bit too deep and by himself, but still Lynx. This is the least interactive game I have ever seen. He's so strong too, especially once he finishes that Lord Doms. But EGC, as long as they can keep keeping him out of this fight, if they can just Nocturne ult him on repeat, these team fights are going to keep going their way.
That little ward being the biggest difference maker right there.
Yeah.
Armeo, the decisiveness to go in. We were talking about Will always willing to take on the pressure. I feel like Armeo is a guy who has had so much pressure on him in his career. He is a 2 Chains champion, for the love of God, with Team Liquid Challengers. And I think to see him resurge like this, even when he was beat down so heavily early, he is the one that's making the different steps.
Absolutely, and a player who definitely belongs in the LCS, has had such good looks playing for Evil Genius's LCS. Of course, we're happy when one of our players like Shaden get to move up like that, much like APA and Insanity. But right now, It is EGC moving up their gold lead in this game 1. Now we're looking at almost 4,000, Lennon. And it's so hard for AOE to play the map at this point because right now, you're so worried about that Nocturne ulti. It's really hard for you to play multiple lanes because even with Breezy walking towards Lynx, it's not enough to actually save him, to protect him. We've seen the situation play out over and over again. So, like, if he gets on AD carry, it's over.
Maybe this is a little bit dark, but is it Spider-Man and Gwen, or is it?
You know what? Pretty
right
accurate,
there.
actually. You're trying
right
your
there.
best.
You're
You were
literally
there.
trying to save him,
But you couldn't do enough. Yeah.
Just couldn't do it. We'll see if that continues to be the case here, or what kind of story plays out. But AOE, they know exactly where the comp fits. They are getting some item spice. They just got a Ludens completed for Darkwings. They just have to be able to put this 5-stack together because Surdy is just going to be hounding down the side lanes with this Hull Breaker, and so is Ryoma.
Yeah, I really like the Ludens shout coming over from Darkwings. That poke damage, that range is something you need to take advantage of right now. And, do we have a fight?
Got
No,
the side lane turret. Surdy. That's Grandmaster's challenge. Pop the equalizer right back to him, though. We'll pull him off of that one. It should be, though, Evil Genius is looking at a 3rd consecutive Chemtank Dragon. And that's all theirs and a sole point for Evil Geniuses.
And I'm asking myself the same question over and over again, Lennon. What are you trading for it as AOE? And the answer is consistently in nothing. No effort to take this. I mean, look at that top tier 1 turret. It's so low in health. Just spit on it. It's probably going to go down. And AOE, yeah, look at that. 400, that's nothing to AOE's comp right now. And it's just so much free gold, literally, that they haven't been able to take advantage of. And it's hard. AOE, again, because of what they're facing with Armeo and Ryoma specifically, that all-in potential, they need to group up. They need to keep
You've got
links.
it, though.
Yeah, you do.
You got 3 items. Now, Lord Doms, they're complete for Lynx, too. So
That's true.
If there's going to be a time to put it all together, get that puzzle looking nice and right, it's going to be right now for AOE.
I mean, I will tell you, you can have 6 items, and if you die instantly, it really doesn't matter. And that's just that big question.
But there's 2 of them beat down. There's 2 of them.
There is 2 of them. So, you know what? I have the perfect analogy for this. Can you make Lynx the president, or is it going to be Gwen from Spider-Man? That's what it's going to take this game as AOE are trying to rush the Baron.
The duality of man, but the duality of Summoner's Rift. We'll see Evil Genius is going for this flipperino here. Ryoma's coming in. Big grand entrance, though, from Smoothie. And they might have just found it. AOE, they're completely split. They don't get anything back. Oh, no. It's complete tragedy. And Evil Genius is cleanly ace AOE off the Rift.
And that's got to be it. Like, the fact is, we're 30 minutes in the game. They're 7,000 gold up. And even if it's the first Baron, Evil Geniuses have taken control. Evil Geniuses have everything they need with this Turtle Baron buff to end game 1.
Kangas, where are you at? The doubters, where are you at? Is this Evil Geniuses finally showing us what they promised when they put together this roster? They are looking damn good. They were in a 2,000 to 3,000 deficit to start this game off. Now they're a whopping 10K gold lead over AOE Gold.
And a mid inhibitor to boot, and Breezy, he's looking menacing, but 30's out of there. Let's be real. EGC, they have so much to work with this Baron buff, and they've picked up so much gold that it is just ridiculous. They can take a team fight and end the game right now. I'm looking at Armeo's ultimate, and that's basically what's going to be the green light for EG to close the book on game 1.
Decisiveness is key, and right now that is holistically in Evil Genius's pockets. They are pushing down the side lanes. This is where this 1-3-1 composition becomes so lethal. You don't have answers to what Ryoma and Surdy can do.
And you can just see how well they are pulling AoE all across the map. You have 3 waves of minions and super minions at that in the middle lane with that Turtle Baron buff on them. Like, your base is falling apart, and EGC are executing this so well. There's only 1 turret left besides the Nexus, and EGC
Will's looking for it. Oh my
He's
god,
gone.
that was a solo kill for Ryoma on Darkwings. Will trying to find something back. Ryoma makes it out alive though yet again. He doesn't go down to Breezy. Oh my goodness, it just can't go the way of AOE. Evil Evil Geniuses! They said you can down us all we want, but
Wait.
that's a quadra kill for Ryoma!
Surely they
and
give it to
want
him.
a penta. It's more about the game win. It's more about giving yourself that safety and having one game away from eliminating AOE.
And on the back of an amazing comeback, Mazel, EGC were able to make it happen. Late game tools, they don't matter, because at the end of the day, if you're dead, your damage is 0.
Bar of execution is always high with the double marksman comp. It looked good early for AOE. They couldn't put it together, and what a miraculous comeback from Evil Geniuses. The person that has the, GG, stayed happy, stayed mentally safe, Armeo. My goodness, that man found a way to stay relevant in the game. We'll see what happens, and if AOE can stay relevant in this series, after a short little break, we'll have our halftime show ready to go.